You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Moguls, 5-Star Management, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, The Goodman Factor, McCaffrey Clinical Mentoring, Chiro Thin, Unmarket Your Practice, and Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt Diduro. Let's hustle.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 136 of the Chiro Hustle podcast. I'm your co-host Luke Millette. Here's your host, Jim Chester.
So today we had the opportunity of interviewing Dr. Donna Perillo. And if you guys want to know more about creating your avatar for your ideal client, stay tuned. Today we have episode 136 with Donna Perillo, and she is coming in from New Jersey. And we're really happy to have you for this episode of Chiro Hustle. So Donna, just give us a little rundown of your chiropractic story and what really influenced you to become a chiropractor.
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you for having me on here because I've seen so many of your podcasts and I really, really, really enjoy them. And I recommend them highly, to say the least. I love you guys.
Oh, thank
so
you.
My story starts back in my 20s. Well, actually, when I was 5, I had started to have asthma attacks and allergies. So for 17 years, I did allergy shots and drugs, and I got no better. I got no worse. I used to have asthma attacks every day from September to January. And then during the year, it would be sporadic. But September was definitely the worst time of the year for me till after New Year's. And so back when I was in my early 20s, I guess it was, my parents had a restaurant, and one of the waiters, he used to see, I had been in a car accident, so I had really bad headaches and neck pain and back pain, and I used to almost be in tears. And he used to help me carry like the gallons of wine. And one day he threw a crooked pen on the bar, and he said, you should go see this guy. And I looked at him, and he said, he might be able to help your allergies too. And I looked at him and I went, what do you mean, my allergies? And he said, yeah, you should go see him. So I never went, but I would say probably about 6 months to a year later, I used to actually play in a rock band. And so I used to get perms. You know, everybody wanted to be in spandex and have a perm like Hart. And I went to go get a perm, and the woman that was doing the perm, I'm sitting there waiting for her, and there's that crooked pen with the same name. And I thought, okay, so this is definitely a sign now. The same, crooked pen and the same name. That's crazy. So now I made an appointment, and I went, and I was just amazed. He sent me for blood work. He did this full exam on me, asked me all these questions that nobody really had ever asked me. And when I went back, he went through my blood work like I've never seen anybody go through my blood work, which is why and how I got into doing a lot of nutrition and analyzing blood work. And he looked at my protein and he said, do you eat protein? And I said, yes, I'm a protein eater. And he said, well, your protein levels are on the low side. So he says, it's possible you're just not breaking it down. So I said, okay. He says, and if you're not breaking it down, then you might be having an antibody antigen reaction, which is causing the allergies and the inflammation. And I looked at him. Now I'm a musician and I'm trying to get a record deal. My degree is from Berklee College of Music in composition and arranging. And all I ever wanted to do from when I was 11 was play in a rock band and write. And it was like, well, okay, nobody's ever told me this. I've been doing this for 17 years. It hasn't helped me. I'll try this. And this is back in the days when insurance was $100 deductible, 80/20, and unlimited visits. So, it didn't cost me a lot of money to go. And I said, okay, let me try it. And so I would go. And while I was waiting in the waiting room, I would read a lot about healthcare and what happens. And in the meantime, we weren't getting a record deal. And I thought, well, what am I going to do? Because I'm not going to bartend and waitress the rest of my life, because I couldn't stand it. Number one, I couldn't stand being around drunks. And number two, I couldn't stand the smoke, because at the time, everybody was smoking in restaurants and in public places. So I decided, well, what am I going to go back to school and do? And one day I went to him, and I was actually thinking about law. I really didn't know what to do. And so one day he said to me, he says, you know, if you go into healthcare, you'll never be bored. And I thought, oh, wow, that would be great, because I get bored so easily. And it was like, wow. And let me tell you, was he right? Because the more you learn, the more you know you don't know. It's just incredible. There's so much to know about health and wellness. So, and that was my experience. So I started with him in November, and I still had the asthma attacks. And in the spring, when I usually had really, really bad allergies, I wasn't that bad. And now my family and friends were saying, what are you doing? How come you're not suffering? We're suffering. Why aren't you? And I would tell them, and they go, oh, you're just wasting your time and your money. And you know, he gave me a lot of supplements to take. Like, he went through the blood test, and he told me, this is this is that, this will help this will help that. And it made sense. So I said, you know, it's just time and money. I've already spent 17 years and it didn't help. So that's what I did. And by the next September, I didn't have one attack. And, you know, if you've ever had asthma attack or pneumonia or something where you can't breathe, it feels like an elephant on your chest, and you just can't breathe in and you can't breathe. It's really a horrible feeling. And it was like somebody gave my life back to me. And I thought, wow. Because when I was a little kid, it was funny, because I was in the allergy doctor once, and I actually was turning blue. He had to pull me in and give me a shot of adrenaline. I mean, it's scary. You're 8 years old and you're turning blue and you can't breathe. And I remember one day he said to me, so what do you want to do when you grow up? You know how you ask little kids, what do you want to do when you grow up? And he said, and I said, oh, I want to find a cure for allergies and asthma. I don't want other people to have to do this. So it's kind of funny how I wound up in chiropractic, because I always was, you know, I was brought up very medically. I always went to doctors. I always went to specialists. I knew nothing about, I did a lot of allergy testing. I say it's like I was a little pincushion, you know, all the little dots, and then my whole arm would get swollen and red because I was allergic to everything. So at one point they said, oh, you could eat, I think I could eat 3 things. It was crazy. It was crazy. And so that led me to become a chiropractor. And then so 2 things happened. I love sports, and I was always active, but not being able to breathe and the asthma held me back a lot, because I couldn't run. I mean, I remember I was playing basketball in high school, and they would say, okay, take 10 laps. And in 2 laps, I'd be up in the locker room taking a pill. I couldn't breathe. And so I'm trying to remember the years. It's so long ago, but I went and I got my certification in sports, and then I went on to get my Diplomate in sports injuries, because I always wanted to work with athletes. I like to work with people who really want to get better, that I give them information and they really care. They want to, they take the information, they listen, and they do it. And elite athletes will do that because they want to succeed. They have that motivation. They have that will. And so I wanted to go to the Olympics, and little did I know how much time you need out of your office to train to be in the Olympics. So as of yet, I have not, but it's on my bucket list. But the second thing that I did is I got my master's in nutrition, because it just always fascinated me, and I love the chemistry. So I did that. That I think I finished back in '99. And then I've studied a couple of courses on blood chemistry analysis. And so I like, being that I did so many years and I come from a background of traditional medicine, I like the idea of I could show somebody something today, and in 3 months I could retest them and show them that something changed. I like that, as opposed to, well, how do you feel? Because when people see it, like, they know they feel better, but when they see it, or they come back and they said, oh, my blood test, my doctor, their primary is so happy, what I did. And it's funny because sometimes I'll say, well, did you tell them? And sometimes they'll tell them that they see a nutritionist, but they won't say they see a chiropractor. So there's still that stigma out there for some reason about chiropractors. I don't really know why, but apparently there is. So that's my background, and that's how I got into here. And so what happened back in 2009, I was on vacation, and I have a lot of seniors in my practice, and I still do, always have. And I teach them exercises, and I tell them, go home and do it. And they come back and they forgot, they didn't do. So I said, you know what? I'm on vacation, and I'm thinking, I'll just tape them for them so I don't have to keep repeating this because it's so time consuming. And then all of a sudden I just started to write a video. I don't know why, but so in 2009, I wrote what's called Arthriticize for neck pain. I started with the neck because it's nice and easy. And so in that DVD, I do color therapy, music therapy, and visualization. So I'm a big believer in the triad of health: the physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, chemical, nutritional, however, environmental, however you want to say it. And so in that video, I do a lot of that because I noticed when I'm at the gym, I don't get injured often, but when I do, or when I see most people, it's on the third set because their mind is wandering and they're going somewhere else. And so back then, that's how I started to do that. And then I didn't like the music. I was looking at music and I didn't like it. And I hadn't really written in years. And I said, you know what, I'm going to have to write the music. So that's what I did. Is I went to my piano and my bass and my guitar, and I started writing. And then a friend of mine that I went to Berkeley with, a great piano player, she came, we went into the studio, we recorded everything, and then I did the voiceovers. So that was 2009. And then I think it was a couple of years later, I did Arthriticize for the low back. And then I'm not really even sure how long ago I wrote a chakra healing program and I did voiceovers. So I'm actually one of the voiceovers or one of the programs on Brain Tap. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Brain Tap and Patrick Porter. And he's amazing. And we have some similar backgrounds. And so he actually has, it's a headset that you wear with light, and it basically puts your brain into different levels. And so the program, so I wrote the chakra healing program, but he has programs in there for pain, neuropathy, anxiety, depression. I mean, there's 500-600 of them. And it's funny because one day I was on Facebook and somebody said, are you the Donna Perillo that's on Brain Tap? And I thought it was, I thought I was getting spammed or hacked, or, you never know what's going on social media. But it was funny how you connect to people that way. So I wrote that. And now I'm actually, I finished another book in a workbook, and I'm working on another book. However, I don't have any of them out there yet. But that's what I'm in the process of doing right now.
So do you have any favorite motivational quotes or mantras that keep you fired up every day?
Well, I'm a Napoleon Hill freak. I have almost all of his books on Audible, plus the hard copies of his book, and Clement Stone. And so, if you believe it, you can conceive it. And I do actually, I have a mastermind journal that I use every day. I picked that up. Oh my God, when I first got out of school and I was with, I'm trying to think, the Masters, I think it was called. And that was pretty cool back then. And so there was a chiropractor and he used this, and I just love journaling. So every day in there, I have different affirmations that I say and that I do and different quotes. But the Napoleon Hill is really, if you can believe it, if you believe it, you can conceive it. I just, the visualization part of it and really feeling it. And you have to really visualize with emotion and feel it like it's happening. And it's not always easy to do that. But when you can do that, miracles happen.
So how do you think the world would change if everyone started getting under chiropractic care?
Well, the world would be unsubluxated. Imagine that. Well, for one, we wouldn't have most of the hatred that we have in the world. I think there's a lot of hatred in the world, and I try not to buy into it. I try not to watch the news too often. I try to watch comedies. And sports. I like sports and comedy. And I think, number one, less hatred. Number two, people would be healthier because they would have better brain and nervous system, brain flow, blood flow, nervous system flow. Their brain would be communicating better with their physical body. Their brain would be able to communicate better with the spiritual side, which whatever you believe in, that you can make that connection and be at peace. I think that's I don't think people are at peace, and I think that's why our society, especially here in the United States, I don't know about other countries, but here it amazes me how many people suffer with anxiety and depression. I mean, we live in a country that is full of opportunity, and we have a great percentage of our society on pills because their chemistry is off because they're so stressed out, really, because stress is, whether it's physical in nature, emotional in nature, or toxins, which is another thing. We could get into a whole podcast on how toxic everything is. So I think that would be amazing. That would just, if everybody got adjusted, I can't even imagine. It's funny because I know when I need to be adjusted right now, and I know it because my brain isn't connecting as quickly as it normally does. And it's not always about pain. It's about expressing who you are, because everybody's so different, and being able to express yourself in who you are, why you're here manner. And that's what I think about chiropractic.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This week's episode is brought to you by Imaging Services, Posture Screen, Mahalo Wellness, Chiro Moguls, 5-Star Management, Chiro Health USA, Local Gold, The Goodman Factor, McCaffrey Clinical Mentoring, Chiro Thin, Unmarket Your Practice, and Free My Pain Now with Dr. Matt Diduro. Let's hustle. So a little bit deeper on what you were saying there, I just want to touch on a couple key statements that you made. Is the people that may have opposition towards chiropractic are actually still getting care. So that's the crazy thing, is the people that want to stifle the messaging of chiropractic actually get their families adjusted, and they have their own chiropractor. And it's been that way since the beginning of time. When it was taboo for people to go see a chiropractor, the people that owned businesses, that ran the cities, that had the big high dollar connections, those were the people that were saying, you know what, I like to get adjusted, and that stuff's good for me. It's good for my family. So a lot of these things that we see that the messaging has been trying to be stifled over the generations, the people that are actually getting the care are the ones that are the more affluent people in the society because they know that it makes them feel better, they function better, they produce better. And as I talked to John DeMartini, he said that people that actually got adjusted regularly actually made more money. So it's not about the pain game, it's about the solving game. And I think that that's what you've done over your career, is you've helped solve the concerns for people, whether it comes from the physical, the chemical, the emotional barriers that they're dealing with. As like you mentioned, the triad of health. There's so much that when people come into you, it's not just the neck pain that they're dealing with. You said it's the stress pain that they're dealing with. And there's no real quotient to know how much stress somebody's under, other than when you start getting them under regular care, you can see that their physiology changes. You can see that their emotional stance changes, their relational experiences change. You can see so much unfold from somebody. It's like, here's a good analogy. What if there was a good gardener and they watered a beautiful flower too much? What would happen to that beautiful flower? It would flood, and it would eventually not be a beautiful flower anymore because we'd overwater it. And that's what happens so much times with us, is we want to tend to each other, but number one, we don't know what to do for it. So we're pouring the wrong type of water onto our beautiful flower. And at the end of the day, that flower gets sick. And you know who that beautiful flower is? Typically, it's our significant other, and it's our kids. So we're giving our kids the wrong type of fuel, and our families the wrong type of fuel. And we're seeing them become more sick rather than beautiful and blooming. They become more stressed, more dependent on something that's outside of their body going into it. And then we wonder why there's these concerns with people not having dinner together, no more prayers at the table, no more holding doors open for the elderly, no more saying nice things to people when you check out the grocery line. You know, these things have an effect. But if people were all getting adjusted, I guarantee you, Dr. Donna, some of these things that we think about and that we see that are common today, they wouldn't be the same as they are if we started having a healthier culture. But back to the square one, it would all happen because somebody said, I believe in what that does for me, and I want my family to be healthy too. And it was the great Sisyphus that would say, why would you come here to get healthy and leave the rest of your family home to be sick? And when we think about these compound effects of a family being sick, what does it do to divorce rate? What does it do to the relational aspect of the future for that kid going to school? What does it mean for, I mean, there's so many things when it comes to that chiropractic lifestyle and delivering people on the promise that if you come in, we're going to check you, we're going to correct you, and then we'll see how that does. And then don't stop after that first one. Make this a part of your worldly and your daily life, because when people do follow that lifestyle, Donna, I've told people time and time again, I've never recommended the chiropractic lifestyle to anybody that got a worse life. So back to that again,
Yeah.
there is that decoding factor too. But my follow-up question to all this, since you've been speaking, is what have you seen has been the most profound thing to happen in chiropractic over the past decade?
Well, I think that chiropractors are starting to come together a little bit more, because you have the straight chiropractors and they only want adjustment. And then you have the mixers that did modalities or did nutrition or did whatever. And I see that there's more of a mix and that there's more unity, as opposed to, say 20 years ago or 15 years ago, where, even in my state, there's the straight society and then there's the mixer society. And it doesn't help when you're trying to get, when you're into politics, or, because you can't get anything changed without political backing. That's just the reality of the way it is. What we had to go through just to change our scope of practice here in New Jersey. I have a master's degree in nutrition, and I was reprimanded because I was doing nutrition. I was telling people what they should do. And to me, it was, well, if I know what they need and I don't tell them, that to me is worse. But in any event, yeah, I think that's it. I think chiropractors and I think, with the movement, like what you're doing, and a couple of other chiropractors, chiropractic groups out there, or companies or individuals, I think they're trying to pull everyone together in the right direction so that people get educated about chiropractic, because we need a paradigm shift. And they say you need 10%. Well, we were close to 10% at one point, and then I don't know what happened, but we're not at 10% anymore. So we need that paradigm shift, and we need everybody to kick in and get passionate about it. And it's funny because, if you're a chiropractor, and if you're a disciplined chiropractor, you're not going to not get adjusted. I would never think, well, I'm not going to get adjusted. I mean, my mind goes, oh, I have to go get adjusted. When, let me try to figure this in my schedule, because my schedule is so crazy. But how do not for nothing. So, those 17 years of allergy shots and drugs, I didn't mention 4 or 5 times a year I'd get bronchitis and be on antibiotics, which wiped out my microbiome and my flora, which led to colon issues. So one thing leads to another. Had I been a 5-year-old taken to a chiropractor, maybe I wouldn't have had half of the things I've gone through in my life. I have a really bad scoliosis too. So, I'm kind of passionate about that. And it's very sad to me when I see, I've seen kids on nebulizers, and the parents are afraid to take them to me as a chiropractor, but they're not afraid to just keep pumping the drug in the body.
One of my mentors and people I look up to, Billy DeMoss, he always tells people the reason that they're sick isn't because they have a deficiency of whatever drug in their body. They're sick is because the environment that they're in is causing them to be sick, and they don't know what to do for their own health. So they think that it's an outside-in solution, where really what it is an inside-out solution, as you found. And I couldn't even imagine if you didn't have to go through 17 years of medication and external therapies to make sure that your immune system was strong enough to keep you healthy. And that's really what it goes down to. It's the brain that's so important to the functionality of the human, but it's also the immune system that flows through that nervous system. And if that nervous system shut down, there's not anything that's going to make it better other than unclogging that nervous system. So back to what you're saying is there's the chemical, emotional, physical aspect of chiropractic, but also it's the hands-on. There's not another type of care out there that puts hands-on and heals people with their hands. So there's that other aspect of that too, is sometimes it's just that physical touch and that intention behind that touch that makes that person start to feel better as well, because we're so blocked off. We barely hug each other anymore.
Well, because you're afraid it's going to be some kind of improper thing. I mean, it's crazy. I grew up in a family, we always had dinner together. We always kissed hello, kissed goodbye. I mean, it's so very different now. Everything is, iPads, phones, this, that. The kids, they could be in the same room and they don't talk to each other. They're texting. It's like weird to me. And I think, I don't know feel like there's going to be something, well, it's already happening socially and health-wise to these kids, because they're not engaging like humans have engaged for umpteen years. But you mentioned Billy DeMoss, and I got to meet him last year, and I've heard of him, but I had never been, because he's usually on the West Coast, and what a powerhouse individual that man is. Oh my God, great energy. And talking about hands-on again, to me it's an energy exchange. And being a musician, to me, it's all about vibration. And so if I'm happy, I'm at a higher vibration than if I'm sad or I feel guilty or I'm worried. And you can take people through that visualization. And I think I did it in one of my programs, where I said, think of the best day of your life and how do you feel? And then I said, now think about the worst day of your life. Somebody died or you got divorced, and then I hit it like that. And it's like their physiology changes, everything changes.
So where do you see chiropractic heading in the next 20 years or so?
Well, I am hoping we could get more political clout, because that's what we need. I think we need a mass movement. So I think chiropractors getting on the same page is going to help, because here's the thing that I see is when I started doing nutrition way back when, and I used to go to all of these seminars, it was mostly chiropractors. And now what I see is I see a lot of medical doctors, I see nurses, I see pharmacists, and I read a lot of books, and I see a lot of the bestsellers are by medical doctors. And when I read the book, they sound like they're a chiropractor. They sound like chiropractic philosophy. Oh, you heal from the inside out. Oh, from the head down. It's all about the brain. Well, hello, that's what we've been saying. So I get a little angry that we allowed them to take hold of that, and I feel like that's ours. We shouldn't have let them get to that. And I think they got to that because they have more money, they have more PAC money, and so we need. The nice thing about social media is we could create a movement, and so I think that all the people like you and some other people. I don't really want to name names, but you know a lot of the people that I know, and they're trying to change the perception and change the reality of what's going on, so people get the truth about chiropractic, as opposed to, don't go to chiropractic, they're going to kill you, or they're going to hurt you, or they didn't do this, or whatever it is, that negativity. And I think we just have to keep going with the positive and what we can do. Let's just do what we can do and change lives, because you never know when that life might be somebody that's influential that can get things changed.
Yeah, I think that you're spot on when it comes to owning the language and owning the philosophy. One of my buddies, Roberto Monaco, says that if we don't tell people our story, then someone will make one up about us. So we have to tell our own story. Otherwise, like you said, also, somebody else will come in and take the ideas and the knowledge of what chiropractic stands for, and then they'll manipulate it into a messaging that supports what they do. And that's another strike against us. So I do think that we need to start owning the language of chiropractic more, and we do need to get more media leverage. Let's talk marketing. I know you've been a chiropractor for how many years?
Oh my God, since 1988.
So you've seen a lot come and go with marketing.
Yes.
What have you seen over the past 3 to 4 years that has really worked? And what would you recommend other people to do?
So, the whole landscape changed. I used to go, belong to a lot of, when I first started, I went to a lot of networking groups, which still work. You need to have those one-on-one connections. But, and I used to do adult ed. I used to teach adult ed a couple of times a year. I used to run seminars. I like to teach. I like to engage people. I like to be in front of an audience. And I think all of that still works. But I think social media, I think the younger people are on social media. In fact, I'm interviewing women for the book that I'm working on. And the book is really for women that are menopausal, like aging, like me, like Avatar. So, and trying to age gracefully and trying to age and enjoy life. And I think that's just key for people is that different age groups, and it depends on the age group that you're trying to attract. So my age group is older, and the one thing is most of them are not on Instagram or Snapchat or LinkedIn or Twitter. Some of them are on Facebook, but most of them are the old-fashioned email. And so I've been interviewing them for their demographics, and I find that TV-wise, they watch TV, where the kids, like a lot of kids, they don't really watch TV. They watch maybe Netflix or whatever, or play games. So it depends on your demographic, really, the marketing aspect of what you're looking for. But I think that face-to-face, one-on-one is, the way for me to go. And TV shows, they like Cooking Channel and they like the HGTV. So I thought, well, maybe I'll look into advertising on those two stations, if that's even possible, to kind of target my demographic. You know, everybody has a different demographic that they're and different way that they're going to help people. You know, some people are coaching weight loss, and some people are coaching exercise or flexibility, yoga, whatever. But people don't know. I mean, we're entrenched in healthcare. I mean, that's what we do 24/7. We live the chiropractic lifestyle. But it's sort of like, the analogy to me is when somebody talks to me computer language and I don't know what they're saying or what they're talking about. And so sometimes I have to take a step back and say, okay, am I explaining this in layman's terms? Do they know what I'm talking about? So that's what I think about marketing. It's definitely changed. And I think that depending on your demographic, that's where you're going to go. But marketing wise, you need to know who your demographic is, so you know where you're going to go do whatever it is you're going to do, whether it's a talk or a screening or whatever.
So we know you're a musician. What else do you like to do in your spare time as hobbies? What do you like to read? What do you like to listen to?
So I like to create. I don't particularly like to read. I like to listen. So I'm an Audible fan. I mostly do Audible. However, and I'm a nonfiction person. I don't read novels. I read all self-help, health, biographies. I love biographies. I love to see how successful people lived, because people look at successful people and they think, oh, you know, they were just lucky. And you and I know that you're just not successful without the work. You have to do some kind of work. So I like to read biographies. It's always interesting to me what people have gone through and how they've gone through it. I love to listen. I have a lot of Napoleon Hill, Jim Rohn, Wayne Dyer. Love Wayne Dyer. A lot of, you know, those types of books I like to read, and then textbooks, like anything that I'm researching, I get the hard copy, or I have it on my iPad. I like my iPad. So when I travel on a plane, it's funny because people hate to fly and I love it, because to me, it's like, oh, I have hours where nobody can bother me. My phone can't ring. Nobody can bother me. And I could go on my iBooks and I could really see, what things I haven't been able to get to.
So give us some websites or other resources if people wanted to learn more about you and what you're doing.
So my website is drperillo.com. That's DRPERILLO.com. And they can reach me, and that will actually go to my office, which is Chiro Chiropractic Healing Center of New Jersey. And on that website, you'll see my podcast, which is called Habits of Healing, which is based on that triad of health, and also my blogs and my arthritis size program. In fact, I have to get a couple more things. I have to update that website. It's constant. It doesn't end. You just constantly new ideas, new things. It's fun. It's fun. It keeps you going.
Awesome. Well, Donna, I just want to say thank you for being our guest today on this episode of Chiro Hustle. And as Luke and I are over here, we just want to hope that you have a great rest of your day. And thank you for being our guest.
Oh, thank you guys. And I hope you have a great day too. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in New Jersey.
Yeah, we'll see you in Jersey and then hopefully Victoria as well.
Oh, absolutely. I'm looking forward to that too. It's funny because you feel like you know people and you've never met them, but you know, because they have the similar, they're your tribe. So I'm looking forward.
All right. Thanks so much, Donna.
All right. Take care, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.